Good evening. We are calling the August 26th, 2019 meeting of the Prescott Valley Board of Adjustment to order. For the information of the public, the Board of Adjustment is an impartial body made up of residents of the town of Prescott Valley who volunteer their time and efforts and are guided by state and local rules and regulations. When you address the board, please state your name and address for the record. Only one person may speak at a time, and all remarks must be addressed to the board as a whole. As board chairman, I will recognize town employees who are present: Fernando Gonzalez, Code Enforcement Supervisor, and Christy Jones, Administrative Support Person. I would ask Christy if she would call the roll.
Chairperson Shimon?
Here.
Vice Chairperson Johnson?
Here.
Member Corrigan?
Here.
Member Van Boning?
Here.
Member Brower?
I note for the record and for the applicant, if a full 5-member board is not present, we advise you of the following. Applicants, we do not have a full board present at tonight's meeting. Pursuant to Article 13-29060, you have the right to request that your item be deferred to a future meeting date when a full 5-member board is present. Board approval or denial requires a majority of votes. The motion will not pass if there are less than a majority of affirmative votes. Please make your request known before we hear your application. I would ask the applicant now, do you choose to proceed or will you postpone? The applicant elects to proceed. I am asking now for approval of the May 20th, 2019 minutes. Are there any changes or modifications to the minutes? None being offered, I call for a motion to approve the minutes as submitted, followed...
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
May I have... Oh, you're seconding.
Did you?
No, you're making the motion. I will second. Thank you so much. I second the motion. May we have a voice call vote?
Chairperson Shimon?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Johnson?
Yes.
Member Corrigan?
Yes.
Member Van Boning?
Yes.
The minutes are approved as submitted. May I ask if there are any announcements from members of staff or board members? Hearing none, I will read the agenda item into the record. V19001, upon the application of Kira Gannon, owner, a request for a variance per section 1321.060C3 and 1321.120A2B of the Town of Prescott Valley zoning ordinance in order to allow a 6-foot-high fence to remain in the exterior setback. The subject property is located at 4915 North Shadow Lane, Prescott Valley, Unit 20, Lot 376, APN number 402-21376. I would ask Mr. Gonzalez for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. I'm going to have staff enter staff brief as written. I'm just going to go over some of the key points. The zoning of the property is R2. Setbacks for that property, as noted, are 25 in the front, 20 in the rear, 10 feet on an exterior side, which is Rancho Vista, and 7 feet on the interior side. The subject property was actually first brought to my attention when the developer came to me and asked me in regards to the setbacks of this property, at which time I expressed my concern in regards to the fencing of the property. Subsequently, the developer did not fence the property, ended up selling it to the applicant without the fence. The applicant did come into the town center and requested a fence permit. Actually, it was the applicant's husband who came in and requested put in an application for a fence permit. Upon review of the fence permit application, it was found that the property actually backed up to a key lot. And a key lot, and that was part of the review, and I've got a diagram there showing the key lot situation. The one on the top shows Rancho Vista Drive. The front is Shadow Lane. The key lot is the property next door. As you can see, that duplex, that's the key lot there. And as you can see on the Exhibit B, the front yard setback to the key lot is 25 feet. And I'm looking at the one on the top, which says Rancho Vista and Shadow Lane. And you can see where it shows the 4-foot-high maximum fence. It goes around the property line. The one underneath is the one that was actually approved on the permit. And that shows a 6-foot-high fence, but it shows the triangle of visibility and the 10-foot setback on the exterior side. And that would be approved for a 6-foot-high fence. Unfortunately, what happened is upon review, we discovered this. We brought this issue to the attention of the applicant. The applicant did come in, and revised the site plan. So at the time of the revision, and it was noted that he elected to do the 4-foot-high fence, and that's showing on the yellow. This is the actual permit, Z19-0054. And it was approved because it actually met the standards. On May the 1st, 2019, a routine inspection found that the property was not in compliance, that the fence had been installed in contrary to this approved permit. We brought that to the attention of the property owner, the applicant's husband. I had a number of conversations. We discussed the key lot situation. He stated that the reason he chose to continue to have the fence permit put in 6 feet instead of the 4 feet was because his contractor said he's done it in other areas within the town and it wouldn't have been an issue. So relying on that contractor, he went ahead and elected to let him erect it at 6 foot high instead of the 4 foot that was approved on this permit. Further conversations in regards to this was also done with the director and myself regarding this issue. The facts find both the contractor and the applicant were aware of the situations in regards to the fence. Town Code, Section 1321-120A2B, as noted, does not allow any structures to exceed 4 feet in height in the noted setback as part of the Exhibit B. In conclusion, the applicant's actions to allow the placement of a 6-foot-high fence was in direct conflict with the approved zoning permit and created a self-imposed hardship. Due to that, staff is recommending the board deny the variance V19-001. That's all I have. I am here to answer any questions in regards to this, and I believe the applicant's wife is here as well.
Have any members of the board questions for Mr. Gonzalez?
I have one.
Yes,
I read your report with great interest.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Sure. I read your report with great interest, and particularly the part about self-imposed hardship.
Yes.
Now, my idea of a self-imposed hardship is this traditional idea where it's a guy has an acre lot, he sells off a half acre, and then he asks for a variance because his lot is too small. He's definitely imposed that hardship on himself by the sale of the property.
Yes.
My question would be, does putting up something illegally constitute a self-imposed hardship, or is it just a violation of the ordinance?
That is a good question. I believe it's both. I believe it's self-imposed because it's something he chose to do. It wasn't required. Nobody forced him to do that, to erect the 6 foot instead of the 4. And it violates town code, which a notice of violation was issued to the property.
But that doesn't quite answer my question. My question is with respect to the fact that it isn't really, well, it's not a question, it's a statement. It isn't really a self-imposed hardship because the hardship was already there. It's just an illegal action to get around it, maybe to get around the hardship that was already there. In other words, he didn't impose the hardship on himself. He did an illegal job of putting up the fence. But there already was a hardship there, and it wasn't imposed by himself, it was imposed by the ordinance.
May I ask a question of Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
I believe in your opening statement, you informed us that the original developer who sold the property and the applicant, were made aware of these restrictions and proceeded to request and submit and receive a permit for a 4-foot fence.
That is correct.
Absent construction, albeit the fault of the contractor or the applicant, a 6-foot fence in conflict with town regulation pretty much fulfills the self-imposed hardship definition.
Correct. That is correct.
Thank you. Have any other members questions for Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan is
One
recognized.
more question.
Sure.
Isn't it true that pursuant to the township code, we can't consider all these examples of other properties where they say there's a 6-foot fence based on the ordinance? And I don't know the number of the ordinance offhand, but it basically says every application is done on its own merits and that previous grants or denials should not have any effect.
That is correct. You are 100% correct. Any action that the board does is specific to that property. The characteristics are specific to that property, whether they're granted or not granted. And it does not, just because we approve it on one doesn't necessarily mean it's automatically going to be approved on the other one. Every case is heard or read on its own merits.
Thank you. I'm done, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I ask again, have any other board members questions for Mr. Gonzalez? I would now ask the applicant if she cares to address the board.
Thank you for taking the time to review our application. May I ask Mr. Gonzalez a question? Is that okay? I don't quite understand, I guess, the full intention or purpose of the code in which we're in violation of, and I would like to know, since he's code enforcement, what that is, if that's okay. Does that make sense?
I think this is somewhat late in the process to be asking Mr. Gonzalez questions. Do you want him to interpret? Has he not explained to you as the applicant the process and what is required by the municipality?
For the variance, we understand the 4 different points that we have to meet, but our question of the ultimate purpose of the town code has never been satisfied.
We are here to assess your request for a variance. We have no purview to address or modify in any way town ordinance or zoning.
Of course, and we do respect that. We just wanted a little bit more information since the code is there for a purpose. But if that's not okay to ask that question, then I'll move on. So in the process of applying for the fence, we were never made aware from the builder's perspective of the issue that Mr. Gonzalez raised. That's the first time I've heard that they had a conversation, him and the builder, and they were aware. We were not made aware of that when we purchased the property. We applied for a 6-foot fence. The denial reason that came through was because, according to the email from Mr. Gonzalez, that our lot was not a corner lot, it was a key lot, which didn't make any sense based off of the definitions we found in the town code. And at that time, we had brought that to our fence contractor. He advised us to proceed with the fence based off of the difference in height, because our property is so much lower than the street that in fact it was not really like a 6-foot fence. It had the, I guess, appearance of a 4-foot fence and would act that way based off of the street level. And that we could, if that ended up being an issue with the town or with the neighbors, that we could apply for a variance after the fact, which is what we are doing here today. It wasn't our intention to, disrespect the code or anything of that nature. Our timeline was such with the building of the property, and as you probably all remember, we had that terrible snowstorm and all of our timelines were moved and changed, and it became, a confusing process for us being, I guess that's the first time we've ever bought a new build. So anyways, our application for the variance still stands as one in which we believe enables us to enjoy the full property rights of our property, those being privacy and security, based off of, Rancho Vista and how our property on Shadow Lane sits so much more below the road. Having a 4-foot fence, it pretty much destroys all of our privacy. We've got a young son, I'm pregnant, we, have dogs, there are coyotes in the neighborhood. We, rent out one side of the duplex to some very nice but young Embry-Riddle girls. And we truly believe that if we are not permitted this variance, we're going to lose the security of being able to enjoy our property, the privacy, and that scares us a lot. It makes us worried, I guess, for continuing to live in the town, and we hope the board appreciates that although our fence is not currently within the code, there is that you deem it reasonable to grant us that variance so we can continue to enjoy our property rights. We've talked to all the neighbors around. Everyone really likes the fence. Even though it's a 6-foot instead of a 4-foot, it was still built very well. It's top-end redwood. We believe it adds value to the neighborhood, to the property in itself, and we have had no issues with anyone telling us otherwise, or with traffic. There's been no issues with traffic or being able to see around the fence because it is set back, within our property boundary. I guess I'd be happy to answer any questions. If you
Do
have
any board members have questions for the applicant?
I have one question, Madam Chairman. The contractor, was he a licensed contractor, fence contractor?
He was not a licensed fence contractor, but had over 30 years' experience. And he advertised in the Daily Courier, and we'd contacted his past clients, and we'd driven by their fences, and we liked them. We thought that they were very well built. And indeed, I believe our fence is well built. He just probably wasn't the best person in the end to take advice from.
The reason I ask is that a licensed contractor, if he looks at a set of plans or looks at a permit and he sees what's on the permit and then he tells you that we can do something else, I don't think that's much of a contractor myself, that he
Right.
he really shouldn't do that. I mean, he's not in his rights, even as a non-licensed entity, to even go against what the permit is. When you build a home, you have a permit to build a home. If the town comes out there and it's a completely different home that you're permitted for, you're in big trouble.
Right. We had, sorry, give me 1 second. Yeah, in hindsight, we certainly shouldn't have listened to the fence contractor, and I think if we, I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? So, because originally our property was we were supposed to have moved into it at the end of February, and the big snowstorm that we had pushed the building out by a month. So when we applied for our initial permit, it was at the end of January. We didn't think we had time, I guess, to do a whole lot more. But in hindsight, you know, we would have applied, I guess, sooner for that variance if we thought we had the time. It wasn't our intent to really go against the code. It was our intent to make our property private and secure from when we were supposed to move in.
But when, I guess it was your husband that came in and talked to Fernando about the problem with your first plans being 6 foot, and he must have agreed on the 4-foot high fence.
So
I'm really surprised at why it became a 6 foot all of a sudden, so.
my husband had gone in to get more information. One of the other pictures that Fernando had showed with the key lot, so if we had in the writing that Fernando had conveyed to us as to why we were denied a 6 foot, we were told that our lot was the key lot, which didn't make any sense. And we had contacted some other people in the town, and they continued to give us different definitions of what our lot was, which was very confusing. And we were told by another party that it was a through lot, which didn't make any sense. It's definitely not a through lot. And at that point, sorry, Fernando had showed another picture up there. We were never given an alternative, this triangle that was on the bottom of the other picture that he showed. We were never given that alternative as an option. We were just denied 6 foot because it was a key lot, which didn't make a lot of sense. So when we took that to the fence contractor, well, I'm going to call him a fence contractor even though he's not licensed. He said he'd done things like this before because of our elevation with the street. It was, I mean, really, if you've looked at our photos, we're 3 feet below the street level.
I think some of us have, I drove by the property, I think some of the others did as well. So.
Yeah, I hope you did. I hope you liked the fence.
Do any other board members care to address the applicant? Hearing no such desire, I will open the item to comment from the public. And hearing no comment from the public, this item is brought back to the board for closing discussion. Board members, opinions to express?
Madam Chairperson.
You are recognized, sir.
I will be brief. As you know, the requirement of getting a variance under our code and under the code of probably virtually all municipalities is that the applicant has to show special circumstances that justify the granting of the variance. And the applicant also has to show that granting the variance will not affect the health and safety of the community. I took a little trip down to look at the property in question, and I found some interesting things. First of all, their fence, while it's an attractive enough fence, I suppose, it's a stockade fence, and that's probably okay, but it's completely out of character with the rest of the neighborhood. I didn't see any other 6-foot fences in the neighborhood, and I know there was data provided saying that there are other 6-foot fences. With respect to the coyotes, and I don't know much about coyotes. I mean, we have some in New Jersey, but fortunately I've never met any of them while I was there. But in any event, if you look at the map, there's the home of the Gannons, and then there's homes all the way across the street, down the street. And then there's homes behind them that face on another street. And then there's a huge field, which I imagine is where the coyotes live, although I didn't see any coyotes myself. And my point is that nobody seemed to be all that concerned about the coyotes, and most of these places didn't have fences, and I'm not sure that that's a proper special reason for a variance. With respect to the other claim that was made about the person who was, I don't know how I should put it, as sexual deviant or accused of being
Register sex.
registered sex offender, I'm not sure that you really should take that into account as a special circumstance. For one thing, there's quite a number of people in that category around, and if we start granting variances to everybody because of that, where does it end? How many fences are we going to have in this neighborhood now if that's the result? As far as the third special circumstance, the voluminous record of other houses that have 6-foot fences that are in similar circumstances, that was why I asked the question of Fernando earlier to show that, in fact, under our ordinance, we can't consider that.
Thank you. Comments from other board members? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion.
May I address the board again? Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
So 2 doors down, there is a 6-foot fence. It's right on the corner of Chihuahua, well, it's Mariner and Rancho Vista. That property, I think the parcel number is 402-21-447. That has a 6-foot fence that runs along Rancho Vista. It's the house, not the key lot, but the one right next to it has that fence. And I do appreciate that our lot is extremely unique in the neighborhood in the way it's situated and the way that it ended up getting built on. Our frontage is Shadow Lane. We back completely to Rancho Vista. And therefore, of course, we don't look like the other homes there because most of the homes on Rancho Vista front Rancho Vista, but we do not. That's not how the property was built, according to the builder, due to the topography that was given to that lot. So we believe, although we might not look like the other homes in the neighborhood, we are a complementary home in that, you know, the home was built with high quality, the fence was built with high quality, and we add to the neighborhood. We are not one of the single wides or the double wides across the street. And we work hard to maintain our property and to keep it at a higher level than maybe some of the other ones in the neighborhood. And I think that when you see our property, as you guys have, you can understand that natural topography, as well as our originally being defined as a key lot, as being a natural hardship that we did not purposely impose on that. And we have found no one in the neighborhood that has found the fence to mean a hardship for them. We have asked everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I will again ask for public comment, and hearing none, I again return this motion to the board. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion. Hearing none, I will make a motion. I move that the applicant's action, the request for a variance based on the finding of facts presented by the town, and this would be variance V19000, be denied on the grounds that the hardship is indeed self-imposed because the building permit approves a 4-foot fence. Have I a second?
I second the motion.
May we have a voice vote?
No.
Wait, Mr.
Please.
A moment for Mr. Corrigan, please.
I'm going to make a motion to amend your motion. And check Robert's Rules of Order if you don't think I can.
I have no doubt that you can. We will hear your motion to amend my motion.
My amended motion is to deny the application because of self-imposed hardship, and also to deny the application because the applicant hasn't shown the special circumstances which need to be shown in order to get a variance.
I thank you for those amendments. Do we now need a second to your motion? I will second your motion. May we have a voice vote?
So I think you all need to vote not for your motion.
For Mr.
Motion to amend, and then it needs to be followed up with a motion on the amended motion.
Then let us vote on the motion to amend. May we have a voice vote on the motion to amend?
Member Van Bonin?
Yes.
Member Corrigan?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Johnson?
Yes.
Chairperson Shimon?
Yes. May we now have a voice vote on the amended motion?
Member Van Bonin?
Yes.
Member Corrigan?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Johnson?
Yes.
Chairperson Shimon?
Yes. Is there anyone to discuss further business before the board? Hearing no further business, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Voice vote?
Member Van Bonin?
Yes.
Member Corrigan?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Johnson?
Yes.
Chairperson Shimon?
Yes.